Welcome. Hello, Elisa. It's
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here with you today.
Very
So
good.
we are recording today for our Cerridwen newsletter Chronicles, and I am pleased to be here with my sister Elisa M Gray. We both started our journey with a Cerridwen course in 2020, and I have the honors to be here with you today on a Q&A. And Elisa has written a book, What Maketh the Witch, and I am just happy to go through and ask you some beautiful questions. So here we go. Pleased to be here with you. So, Elisa, what was the most difficult aspect of writing this book?
I think the research aspect. I've kind of had this book in my head for many years, since I was a young person, really. I always wanted to write it. I always wanted to write a book that examined the witch trials, witchcraft in general. But when it actually came to doing it, it's all right knowing what you want to write, but actually finding the facts to back up the points and to find out all the aspects of it is quite a daunting task. And sort of sitting there, chapter 1, and then think, right, okay, and finding all the research, and that's the time-consuming part. Is the research, more research, and to make sure that you've got it right. I think that is the most challenging part of writing a book, any book really, and unless it's fiction.
Yes, yeah. Well, as you know, I received your book last year, and I had a really good read, a very emotional read, as well as very tearful, because you really did spend a lot of time in the research. And I remember when I was just in chapter 2, which is titled "Appeasing the Gods." You had me very hooked on continuing to read this book. So I really believe that you did such a beautiful job in your research.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for writing this book. Yeah. So what was the most surprising or moving moment to you when you did this research for the book?
Well, I think finding out the extent of the horror really that went on during the witch trials, and obviously its predecessor, the Spanish Inquisition. The book, the Malleus Maleficarum, translated as Hammer of Witches, which was written by a clergyman, Henrik Kramer, was a bestseller next to the Bible. And that book basically gave license to torture and murder of women. Yes, there were 33 pages dedicated to men, but very, very different pages to the ones dedicated to women. And I think that when that really hits you as a woman researching this, your first instinctive reaction is anger. It's absolute anger. I was passionately burning with anger. The more and more that I found out the depths of the depravity that went on, really. And then obviously that's followed by sorrow, absolute sorrow, agony, really, for the women that went through that. And I think that's something that we should never forget, really, that happened, and that those women who were accused basically, stood no chance of proving any kind of innocence, who were tortured and killed. We shouldn't ever forget that they existed and that they went through that. I think that was the most moving part for me.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah, it was very emotional to even read, which is a good segue here. I marked a chapter in here that I read last year. There's chapter 14 in your book, and it's titled "Men During the Witch Trials." So, do you do you think that could the witch trials have happened in a matriarch society?
No, no, I don't think so. Um, I think the power of the church, which was a patriarchal institution, I don't think that could have happened if it had been run by women. Um, I mean, I may be very wrong, but from where I'm standing, women don't go about things the same way as men. Women tend to sit down and talk about things and work things out in a very different way. But that it was the desire, I think, to control, the absolute control of the church, which is how it started with the Spanish Inquisition. And obviously later on in the 1600s, King James, was petrified of witches, etc. The state, the church and the state were involved. But I mean, even things like the first power job really that a woman had was searching another woman for witch marks, employed by a man to do that. Would women have done it that way? Would women have done it at all? Would women have perceived witchcraft the same way that men did at the time? It's a very, very interesting question. But personally, I don't think it would have been at all the same if it was a matriarchal society. I think the witch trials were certainly run by men. I mean, and there are scholars out there who believe that it was gendercide, that the establishment were actually trying to cull women. Obviously, that can never be proven, but the statistics do back that up, because obviously 95%, across the board of European witch trials, it was women who were predominantly killed. And men, it was very, very different reasons when it was men. I mean, you'll have read about the Loudon possessions in Grandier. He was in the way, so he was accused of witchcraft to get rid of him. Whereas women, you could do anything. You could just be ugly and be accused of witchcraft.
Yeah, the influence that the patriarchy had on the women was really awful, because we tend to, like you said earlier, that women would have pursued it a little bit differently, because I believe that we have that nurturing side of us, and
Yes.
right, and so we see and feel things differently. So thank you for that explanation. It's almost like an answer that needs to sit a little bit and be honored for the words that you have just expressed, because I can feel it deep inside. As a matter of fact, when I read chapter 14, it was one of those chapters, and I expressed this to you before, that I just sit with that chapter for a little bit, because it was very emotional for me to read. But yeah, very peaceful.
I think it's a very emotional subject, really. I think when you really get into it, yeah. I mean, anybody who's even read the Malleus Maleficarum will be mortified. So yeah, I think yes, I think we play it down now. In the fullness of time, more 400 years have passed, etc. And people are laughing when people stand up and pardon witches. Oh well, that's silly. Why now? It's too late. This, that, and the other. No, it's not. It's not too late. Everybody who suffered during that time should be remembered and should be pardoned. They didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It was mass murder.
Yeah. It's that nurturing side of us that was so misread and so misinterpreted, where they even today, we still have that within us, how we create, different herbs and combine herbs to heal. And yeah, and it's not necessarily a spell of, I'm going to hurt someone else. It's been very misinterpreted, in my opinion, and it's sorrowful, as well as today we can look back and look at the ancestors before us and say, make it right. We can't correct what happened in the past, but we can make a difference moving into the future. And thank you for starting to lay those little bricks for us to walk on so beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who is the book targeted for? Who is the ideal audience for you?
Well, really, I think it's targeted at anybody who's interested in witchcraft. To learn something about the history of it, the modern interpretation of it, and really where it's seen now in the modern world, very, very differently from how it was seen. But I also think that, if anybody who's interested in it, who reads it, will realise that it's only across the pond where people are still being persecuted for witchcraft, in Africa, India, China, that we here in the West, in the UK, in America, who can celebrate witchcraft and can celebrate being witches, stand up and be individuals. If we went to Africa and even mentioned the word witch, we'd be in big trouble. And I think that anybody who's interested in witchcraft, practicing witchcraft now, witchcraft festivals, Facebook groups, all this kind of thing, is wonderful and amazing, and it's about time. But I think it's also worth remembering that it's not that far away, that women are still dying for the belief that they're witches. It's only very, very recently, that somebody was murdered in India and also in Africa, for things that we do every day.
Yes, I agree that it's anyone who wishes to, the book is for everyone, I believe. Being that I live here in the Pacific Northwest in America, personally, I have other sister friends that are shamans, and they live in states where the Christians believe that the witches should not be present. And it's making one sister in particular that I know, which we won't name, but it's in her little county, very difficult for her to show her love and craft. And so she, still witnesses that here we are in 2022, and still we're being accused of a witchcraft which is so beautifully organized and orchestrated within us. It's a gift, really, because don't you agree that it's more than just the evil things that we see in Hollywood films? It's really a beautiful craft that we each
absolutely.
Yeah. The purpose that you would like for anyone who reads this book, what would you like for them to receive from that?
Knowledge, really. A backdrop for them. A way to remember where witchcraft came from, how it's been perceived through time. I suppose a respect, really, to get to really feel the respect for the people who passed away during the witch trials, and to sort of carry the torch forward, to think, well, okay, I can do this in this country. I can do this. I don't have to get persecuted. I can carry this forward and, you know, and do something wonderful with it.
Elisa, thank you. This is just a little taste of so much that's in this book and your research, going into the past, that we have so much teaching to share with others. And I would love for us, in our Cerridwen group, to be able to have a longer conversation with you. So I look at this little Q&A today as swoosh on our plate. It's just a little taste of it, because you've got so much knowledge and so much love to share with us. So I thank you for this moment. How can anyone find you? Where can they purchase this book?
The book is available from all good booksellers, Blackwell's, Waterstones. It is on Amazon. It's also at the Green Magic on their website. So yeah, it's very widely available. I do have a website where, you know, where I sort of do because I do teaching. I do teach witchcraft, but my website is down at the moment. But when it's up, it is The Way of the Shamanic Witch. Just www.thewayoftheshamanicwitch.co.uk, because I do courses on witchcraft and other bits and bobs. But yes, the book's available quite easily from all good booksellers.
Wonderful. I do have one more question for you. Because you did begin the 2020 Cerridwen course, you were in the midst of your research and writing this book. How did you balance and manage your life to create this and to continue the path in our Cerridwen?
Well, I kind of thank Cerridwen, really. I mean, I joined the Cerridwen course in 2020, and I wrote the book in the summer of 2021 in 3 weeks.
Wow.
21 days I wrote that book. The editing took longer than the actual writing. When I went through it to edit it, I added another 30,000 words. So that took a little bit longer. But it was, I don't think I would have actually got it down at all if I hadn't have started the Cerridwen course. The Cerridwen course came first, and Cerridwen gave me the inspiration to write the book, and the book came out, bang. You know, the editing, as I said, took a bit longer. The research, I just continuously did it. Any spare time I'd got, I did it. You know, I just fitted it in wherever I could. It was just meant to be at that time. I think it was me, Cerridwen, and hours through the night.
Yes, I thank you for that, because we both know very clearly that when she has this inspiration and sends it over our way, there is just no stopping, because she will continue to come forward.
She certainly will.
Yes. So once again, thank you for today. You can find Elisa's book on any bookseller. I cannot rename them, but I know Amazon, and then you said Green Books.
Blackwell and Waterstones and Green Magic.
Wonderful. And soon, Elisa, hopefully we'll do maybe we will consider having a live with you so that we can go further and deeper into this book. Maybe in the future we'll be able to do that in our Cerridwen newsletter, or maybe a live offering for anyone. Elisa, what is your next trip that's coming up?
Oh yes, I'm going to Salem. Yes, on the 1st of November, I'm going to Salem for a week, and I should be doing some research there for my next book. So that'll be very exciting.
Very exciting. Well, may the inspiration continue to brew within you. May you come forward and be with us in the future, and that we can have more conversations as well as questions and answers from other people that view this, and crossing fingers and toes that we can have a live with you in the future. Again,
Very much.
Maketh the Witch by Elisa M Gray. It is definitely worth the read. I honor your presence. I honor your book. And I thank you for this moment today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
All right. Much love. Blessed be.